There will come a moment in your life, if it hasn't come already, when you look around and realize that no one believes in you. Not your friends, not your family, not the people you thought would always be there. You share your vision, and they smile politely. You talk about your goals, and they change the subject. You pour your heart into something meaningful, and the world responds with silence. This is one of the loneliest feelings a human being can experience. And if you're going through it right now, I want you to know something. The greatest minds in history didn't just endure this feeling. They expected it, they planned for it, and they used it as fuel. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the Roman Empire. He commanded legions, he shaped laws, he held the fate of millions in his hands. And yet if you read his private journal, the Meditations, you discover something remarkable. He was surrounded by people who doubted him, envied him, and waited for him to fail. He wrote to himself, quote, "How much time he gains, who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy," end quote. Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man alive, reminding himself not to care what others think, not because he was above it, but because he struggled with it, just like you and me. Marcus didn't write the Meditations for publication. He wrote them for survival. Every entry was a conversation with himself, a way of steadying his mind against the noise of the world, and one of the loudest noises he faced was the doubt of others. Before we go deeper, let's understand something crucial. When people don't believe in you, it rarely has anything to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, who was born a slave and rose to become one of the most respected thinkers in Rome, understood this perfectly. He taught that people don't react to reality, they react to their own judgments about reality. When someone looks at your ambition and dismisses it, they're not making a statement about your potential. They're revealing the boundaries of their own imagination. They cannot see beyond what they themselves have experienced. Your dream doesn't fit inside their world, so they assume it doesn't fit inside the real world. Epictetus put it simply, quote, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things," end quote. Their disbelief is their judgment. It is not your truth. And here's what makes this even more important. The people closest to you are often the worst judges of your potential, not because they're bad people, but because they knew you before you changed. They remember the old you, the uncertain you, the version of you that hadn't yet decided to become something more, and they can't reconcile who you were with who you're becoming. Let me tell you more about Epictetus, because his story is one of the most powerful examples of standing alone in all of human history. He was born into slavery around 50 AD. He had no rights, no freedom, no voice. His master was Epaphroditos, a wealthy freedman who served in Nero's court. According to ancient accounts, Epictetus walked with a permanent limp, possibly from abuse suffered during his enslavement. Now imagine being in that position. Imagine being property. Imagine being told, every single day, that you are nothing, that your thoughts don't matter, that your life belongs to someone else. No one believed in Epictetus. No one looked at this crippled slave and saw a future philosopher. No one imagined that his words would echo through 2,000 years of human history and still move people today. But Epictetus understood something that most free people never grasp. He said, quote, "No man is free who is not master of himself," end quote. Freedom doesn't come from other people giving you permission. It comes from within. It comes from the unshakable knowledge that your mind, your character, your will, these are yours. No one can take them. No one can diminish them. No one gets a vote. He didn't wait for belief from others. He built belief inside himself, brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. And when he was finally freed, he didn't just survive, he built one of the most influential schools of philosophy in the ancient world. The Stoics had a concept they called the Inner Citadel. Picture a fortress, not made of stone and iron, but of conviction, clarity, and self-knowledge. This is the place inside you that no one can breach. No criticism can crack its walls. No rejection can storm its gates. No amount of doubt from others can weaken its foundation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul," end quote. This is what the Stoics want you to understand. You don't need external validation to move forward. You don't need applause to take the next step. You don't need permission from anyone to become who you're meant to be. The inner citadel is not about arrogance. It's not about closing yourself off from feedback or refusing to listen. It's about knowing the difference between constructive input and noise, between wisdom that helps you grow and fear that wants to keep you small. When you build your inner citadel, something remarkable happens. The opinions of others stop hurting, not because you've become cold or indifferent, but because you've found something stronger to stand on. You've found yourself. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic, advisor to emperors and one of the wealthiest men in Rome, knew exactly what it felt like to be misunderstood and disbelieved. He was exiled to the island of Corsica for 8 years on false charges. Imagine, one day you're at the center of power, advising the emperor. The next, you're banished to a rocky island, stripped of everything, abandoned by those who claim to be your allies. During his exile, Seneca wrote some of his most profound work. He didn't crumble. He didn't spend those years in bitterness. Instead, he produced essays and letters that would become cornerstones of Western philosophy. He wrote, quote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested." End quote. Do you see what he's doing here? Even in exile, even when everyone had turned their backs, Seneca refused to waste time on resentment. He refused to let the opinions of others dictate how he spent his days. Instead, he invested his time in work that mattered, work that would outlast every person who doubted him by 2,000 years. There's a lesson in that. When the world withdraws its support, you suddenly have something precious. Time, silence, space. The noise is gone, the distractions are gone, and in that emptiness, if you're brave enough to face it, you can do the deepest work of your life. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. The need for approval is one of the most destructive forces in human life. And I'm not just saying that philosophically. Think about how many dreams have died because someone needed permission to pursue them. How many books were never written because someone's family said, "That's not a real career." How many businesses were never started because someone's friends said, "That's too risky." How many lives were lived at half capacity because someone needed the world to say yes before they would move? Marcus Aurelius addressed this directly. He wrote, quote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." End quote. Read that again. We love ourselves more than anyone, and yet, paradoxically, we trust other people's opinions of us more than our own. We hand over the keys to our self-worth to people who can barely manage their own lives. The Stoics saw this clearly. Seeking approval is a form of slavery. You become chained to the moods, biases, and limitations of other people. You rise when they praise you. You fall when they criticize you. Your entire emotional life becomes a reaction to forces you cannot control. And the Stoics were crystal clear about this. The only things within your control are your own thoughts, your own actions, your own character. Everything else, including what people think of you, is outside your sphere of influence. Spending energy on it is not just unproductive, it's a betrayal of your own potential. There's an important distinction I want to make here. Standing alone does not mean standing against everyone. It doesn't mean becoming cynical, resentful, or closed off. The Stoics were not misanthropes. Marcus Aurelius, in the very same journal where he wrote about ignoring others' opinions, also wrote extensively about the importance of community, duty, and service to others. He said, quote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." End quote. We are social creatures. We need each other. The goal is not to isolate yourself from humanity. The goal is to stop outsourcing your self-worth. Here's the Stoic approach to standing alone with grace. First, separate your identity from others' opinions. You are not what people think of you. You are what you repeatedly do. Your character is formed by your choices, not by applause. Second, practice what the Stoics called the view from above. Zoom out. In the grand sweep of time and space, the opinions of a few people in this brief moment are cosmically insignificant. This isn't nihilism. It's perspective. It frees you to focus on what actually matters. Third, find your own standard. Marcus Aurelius didn't measure himself by what the Roman Senate thought of him. He measured himself against his own principles. He asked himself each day whether he had been just, whether he had been disciplined, whether he had served the common good. That was his scoreboard. Not popularity, not approval, virtue. Fourth, use solitude as a forge. When people withdraw their support, don't see it as punishment. See it as an opportunity. The greatest works of art, philosophy, and invention have come from periods of isolation. Newton developed calculus during quarantine. Seneca wrote masterpieces in exile. Your alone time is not empty time, it's creation time. There's a passage from Marcus Aurelius that I think about often. He wrote, quote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." End quote. This might be the most powerful idea in all of Stoicism. The obstacle is the way. The very thing that seems to block you, the doubt, the rejection, the loneliness of being disbelieved, this is precisely what builds you. Think of it like fire and iron. Iron doesn't become steel by sitting in comfort. It becomes steel by being thrust into the hottest flame, hammered on the anvil, plunged into cold water, and hammered again. The process is violent, it's painful, but the result is something unbreakable. When no one believes in you, you are in the fire, and you have a choice. You can melt, or you can be forged. Every great person who has ever lived went through this crucible. They were doubted, they were dismissed, they were told they weren't good enough, smart enough, talented enough, connected enough, and they kept going. Not because they were immune to doubt, but because they had something inside them that was stronger than the doubt around them. That something is what the Stoics spent their entire lives cultivating. It's not confidence in the way we usually think of it. It's not the belief that everything will work out. It's something deeper. It's the knowledge that you can handle whatever comes, that your character is strong enough to withstand any storm, that your purpose is clear enough to guide you through any darkness. I want to leave you with some practical exercises drawn from Stoic philosophy. These are things you can do starting today to build that inner fortress. Morning reflection. Each morning before the world rushes in, spend 5 minutes in silence. Ask yourself, what is within my control today? What am I going to focus my energy on? Marcus Aurelius did this every single morning of his reign. It's how he prepared for a day of challenges, critics, and decisions that affected millions. Evening review. Each night, review your day, not with judgment, but with honesty. Did I act according to my principles? Did I waste energy on things outside my control? Did I let someone else's opinion steer my decisions? Seneca practiced this religiously. He called it putting the day on trial. Negative visualization. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum. Imagine the worst that could happen, not to scare yourself, but to prepare yourself. If everyone abandons you, will you survive? Yes. Will your character remain intact? Yes. Will you still be able to do meaningful work? Yes. Once you've faced the worst in your mind, the actual challenges of the day feel lighter. The discipline of assent. When a negative thought arises, when someone's doubt starts to creep into your mind, pause. Don't automatically accept it as truth. Examine it. Is this my thought, or is it someone else's fear that I've adopted? Epictetus taught that between every event and your reaction to it, there is a space. In that space lies your power. Use it. And finally, amor fati, love of fate. This is perhaps the most radical Stoic idea. Don't just endure your challenges. Love them. Embrace the fact that you're walking a difficult path. Be grateful that you're being tested, because it means you're being forged into something extraordinary. If you're watching this right now, and you feel alone in your journey, I want you to hear this clearly. The path you're on is not a mistake. The silence around you is not a verdict. The doubt of others is not evidence of your inadequacy. It is evidence of your courage, because you are attempting something that most people are too afraid to even consider. Marcus Aurelius died nearly 2,000 years ago, but his words still burn with relevance, because he wrote them for moments exactly like the one you're in now. He wrote them for the nights when you question everything, for the mornings when you have to find the strength to try again, for the quiet, uncertain hours when it's just you and your purpose, with no one else to lean on. He wrote, quote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." End quote. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for applause. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that your path is valid. Be the person you know you can be, not because the world believes in you, but because you believe in yourself. And in the end, that is the only belief that ever mattered. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago, and now, so do you.